Dark Days, The Forge, Issue 1, Scott Snyder and James Tynion IV writing, with Andy Kubert, Jim Lee, and John Romita Jr. all on art. Which is probably my biggest problem with the book, actually, is the art bouncing around,
Yeah.
especially when we got to Romita Jr. and it got shit. Like, really
Well,
shit.
no, I don't think I got shit. I think the problem is that it just happens mid-scene. There's no clean breaks as to
No.
when it swaps.
I hate
it just,
his
it just
faces.
suddenly changes.
I hate his faces, so I'm going with shit. But, yeah.
Had they done this with like chapters, then I don't
Yeah.
think it matters as much. But like Pete just said, it happens mid. Almost he's like, "Well, can you finish this for me?" And he's like, "Okay, cool." You know. But yeah, that's my biggest problem with this too.
I went from looking at like Hal Jordan talking to Ganthet, and I'm like, oh, this looks quite good. I'm into this. And then like a couple of pages later, it's Hal and Duke looking at each other, and they both have stupid Romita Jr. faces, and I'm just like, oh, come on, come on now. Here's my first thing about the Forge, right? And metal, because the way I'm seeing this, it's really 8 issues of metal. They've just named the first 2 different things, so they can basically get away with it not being Capullo who's drawn the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I'm looking at it. But here's the thing. I was kind of expecting this to be kind of an event, sure, but something that's more contained to its own ideas. And obviously Doomsday Clock's going to be the big rebirth event. And once we found out about Doomsday Clock, I was sort of seeing this as a smaller thing. But upon reading it, I'm like, no, this is leading to a crisis level event. This legitimately feels like the tease to a crisis. Because it's introducing so many big ideas, it's teasing all these other characters we've not seen in a long time, if ever, in Rebirth or New 52. It's teasing these big things, it's got all this stuff that's like, oh yeah, this has been seeded since the dawn of time, it's setting up these big things, and then we have certain giant-ass devices from Infinite Crisis that made me do a double take. I'm like, wait a minute, what's this? What's he gotten? The fortress?
Yeah, he
it's
kept that one quiet, didn't he?
Oh, it's this tuning fork. Oh, okay. I did not see that coming. And I laughed, Matt, because obviously at one point we find out, because you were saying, why aren't the JLA just called the Outsiders? Why are they called the JLA? I don't get this.
Yeah.
And this is like, oh no, Batman had the Outsiders the whole goddamn time.
Yeah, looking for nth metal, which I like because it gives them a purpose outside of, I can't remember what the original, like when he first put together the Outsiders, what their purpose was away from the Justice League. But here that they're rounding up this metal together because he feels like there's something going on. I really like that. And it was cool seeing Metamorpho, who's a character that, he's one of those Booster Gold-esque minor characters that I've always liked. It was cool seeing him back in the pages.
It's an odd hodgepodge of a team, actually, because you've got Geoforce, you've got Katana, you've got Black Lightning. I think the blonde woman's called Halo, if I'm right.
Yeah.
I don't know much about her, but Halo. So it's an odd team, but I guess that's kind of the point. They're the outsiders, they're the oddballs.
Yeah.
Yeah, so setting up the whole nth metal thing, we have like, this sort of ongoing kind of narration. It keeps coming back to it. It starts with it as well from Hawkman. And it's Egypt Hawkman who's been reincarnated through generations and generations.
It's very clear now that
Carter
Death of
Hall.
Hawkman was just to get rid of that version so we can bring back Hall.
Yeah.
Right.
But basically, his whole thing is he's talking about the mysteries of the nth metal and where it came from, because we see like the nth metal ship arrives, and he's talking about seeing glimpses of, and we actually see like a flash of like another world where there's a giant like evil Batman statue and things, and that's so that's on the cover, and the idea that he's basically saying no one should look into the metal, it's dangerous, no good thing come from it, and it's setting up basically the epic scale of what we're about to be delving into with the story.
Yeah,
It's kind of what it's doing. So, right away, I think I will say I surprisingly enjoyed this issue a lot.
Yeah, I loved it.
Partly because it feels more like a start of a DC event than it does a Scott Snyder comic. At least a present day Scott Snyder comic, where recently I've not been enjoying his stuff
It's
that
not
much.
like reading a textbook, so that's good.
Maybe it helps that he's got a co-writer on this. We don't know how much work.
And so it's someone that we have enjoyed for the past year.
Yep.
So that helps a little bit.
Yeah, so right away, Batman. It's a lot of setup. Obviously, it's teasing all these big things. Right away, Batman's investigating something. He's got Aquaman's help. He's going through volcanoes in his bat armor and all sorts. Meanwhile, I was going to say Oa there, but no, it's Mogo. Ganthet's telling Hal that there's something dangerous afoot on Earth, and he sends him to specific coordinates, which turns out to be Wayne Manor, which gets us to one of our sort of main sort of subplots to the issue, where Hal meets Duke, and they find this secret entrance in the cave. Hal sort of opens it with his ring, and it's all the secret outsidery stuff that Batman's been doing. It's been part of all this research that he's been looking into all this stuff. And they hear a mysterious voice. Now, if I'm going to make one criticism here, is that Duke thinks it's Alfred at first, and then he questions if it's Dick. And I'm like, and when we find out who it is, I'm like, in what world was that going to sound like either of those two?
It's because Duke doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't even want to be called Lark.
Yeah, he was saying he didn't have a name yet. I was like, wait, didn't we do this? Didn't
to be fair, if I was Duke, I'd be pretending Lark never existed as well.
So are we gonna start with All-Star Batman? Like, none of that has really played in or mattered. It's all been its own, so like his backup in there, we're just gonna throw all that out.
To be fair, I don't think this negates that, because that wasn't about him getting a name. That was just about him learning how to be a sidekick.
And to be fair,
basically.
Some of the stuff about his mother is relevant here, because the Immortal Men tease involved that.
But that was set up in Snyder's Batman run.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That wasn't. I'm just going off of the stuff from All-Star that we saw with that first arc with him helping Batman against Two-Face, and it just, I know Snyder's writing them, but they feel like different characters. So, because here, like we just said, he's just like, oh yeah, I don't even have a name yet. I was like, well,
can I tell you how much I enjoyed Hal just like picking him up with like big green hand as if he's a little kid who's like trying to
I
kick
did
his
enjoy
way
him
out.
kicking Hal in the face though, because anytime someone punches or kicks Hal in the face, I enjoy it.
So now you know how you feel when someone punches Guy from Pete's perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
I do enjoy it.
And I do want to say, I think, why is Batman's info so outdated? Because Duke says he read about the ring not working on Yellow.
Yeah.
Shouldn't Batman's files have got him up to speed on this?
He's been busy with everything else.
Maybe Duke's been not reading them properly, or he's reading old
Maybe
ones.
He's skim reading, isn't he?
Yeah. But anyway, so I just want to mention that whole vision of this evil world with the Batman statue, that's actually implied to be a dream, because Carter wakes up in a cold sweat after at the bottom of that page. So I just want to point out, it's like he's having visions of these things. Cause he mentions that he sees glimpses of this whenever he reincarnates. There's like time before he comes back, and he has like these weird, like vague memories of these awful things from this dark multiverse. So Batman goes and sees a couple of characters. He goes and sees Mr. Terrific, who's helping him out with stuff, and they basically, and this is what a lot of big teases is Batman's talking about. We need other. What was it? What did he say he needs it for again? I'm going to need him for what comes next. Yeah, it doesn't actually specify. That's why I can't remember.
But he needed stuff in the molecules that he said that he needed to isolate them, and now it's ready.
Yeah. So he goes in, and it actually took me a second here, I have to admit, because it's basically an egg. It's a big egg that's been held in this metal contraption. And it took me a second to realise what the symbol was. I'm like, this looks familiar. What is this? But of course, it's Plastic Man.
This makes Batman such a jerk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Out of context, he's kept a hero in a prison.
Well, we don't know why he's in there though.
That's why I just said out of context.
Yeah. Because
if you look at a panel, he is smiling when he's going up there to it. And it's just like, hey, Michael, look what I did. Huh?
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. For all we know, maybe he asked to be in there for some reason.
I mean, and to be fair, Terrific knows what he's doing, because he says it's time to let him out the box, and then Terrific smiles and he goes, "Oh, you're damn right it is." So it's like they both knew about this.
Yeah. So this is a joint decision that was made at some point.
Right.
Yeah. Maybe with Plastic's sort of blessing, and then
because we saw his origin in Forever Evil, and that might not hold up anymore, but Johns went out of his way to set that up with E.L. O'Brien and the thing gone wrong with Owlman and whatnot. So I thought that's interesting that now we're getting evil versions of Batman down the line. Like, I didn't know that reading this at the time, but it's quite strange. Well, not strange. It's pretty cool that we're getting Plastic Man back with evil Batman.
Yeah. The other person Batman goes to see goes to the Fortress. It's worth mentioning actually that previous scene with Terrific and the Plastic Man took place on the moon base.
Yeah.
I love that that's just a thing now.
Yeah, which makes me wonder, is this, I assume this is after the current action? Because I know some of the villains in the action are currently using that base themselves.
Yep.
I like the idea that Batman's going to, like, I really hope we get a panel of this in somewhere, whether it's an action, which would probably make the most sense, but the idea of Batman just showing up to his moon base and be like, what the hell, who's been here? What's all this stuff? Why is Kill Superman written 100 times in the wall?
Smells like Kryptonians in here.
Oh dear. So that's good for him. But the other place he goes is the Fortress. And he's like, all right, Superman. I know I asked you to keep this downstairs in the fortress basement, but I'm going to get into. It's like, yeah, but we can't get in there. The lock. No one on Earth can get in that lock. And that's when Mr. Miracle shows up, which is kind of neat because we know we're getting a miniseries with him coming up with King. So it's a nice way to sort of like remind us of his existence again just before that happens. And he opens it up, and sure enough, inside, Matt, what was your face like when they walked in that room in that full page spread?
I had to double check, and I went back 3 or 4 times to make sure it was there.
Yeah. Why don't you explain for the people at home who may not be familiar with Infinite Crisis what this is?
So in Infinite Crisis, you had these. It was a fallout from Crisis on Infinite Earths, where these 4 heroes had went to this limbo dimension. Right, it's Alexander Luthor, Superman Prime, Superboy Prime at the time. Golden Age Superman, Golden Age Lois. Well, they break out, and Alexander Luthor wants to bring back the multiverse. And he starts playing everybody. He poses as Lex Luthor, starts manipulating heroes, villains alike. And he ends up amassing all of this technology and building this gigantic golden tower that, of course, at the end gets destroyed, but he also brings back the multiverse. But in order to get it to work, you need people from different vibrational frequencies. So he started plucking people that should have been in other, Kyle Rayner was supposed to be the Green Lantern of Earth 8, and you had Power Girl, who is the Supergirl of Earth 2, to make it work. So it's like this big, gigantic tuning fork. Like, Pete was bringing up a tuning fork earlier. And so this right here, in the basement of the Fortress of Solitude, is Alexander Luthor's gigantic crisis. I call it the Crisis Tower because what it is the Crisis Tower. Asked me the question, how big is the Fortress of Solitude that it can have this gigantic tower in the basement?
Given they said downstairs, I assume that when they wanted to store this here, Superman just sort of cut out more of the floor to make it fit.
And it's also confirmation that Infinite Crisis has happened.
It is. Yeah.
Right? So we were talking about Mr. Oz earlier, and I definitely don't think it's Ozymandias.
Now, admittedly, we said this before with another mystery, and it turned out to be complete bollocks. Yep. But I'm going to say it again: It's prime time, baby.
See, you think it's prime time? I think it's Luthor time.
Oh,
I think it's Alexander Luthor.
I'm more inclined with Luthor for this one.
Oh, alright, fine. I'll accept it.
You got the whole he can transmutate matter, but the last time we see him, Joker and Lex Luthor kill him and kind of leave him for dead. But we don't necessarily know if he died, what happened. He's from a different Earth. He has been known to live in a place in between time. And once I saw the Crisis Tower and then have the news about the Tim Drake and whatnot going forward, and then the fact that Johns had set Oz up back in Superman, it all just... Now this whole metal event takes place hand in hand. Everything is like a damn Swiss watch. Everything pieces together and it's part of a bigger thing. And I love that for comics.
Yeah, I feel like given what that action solicit said about the identity of Oz shaking him to his core, it feels like someone related to that. Seems like likely, unless it ends up being like another complete swerve, like with Mr. Pitlick with the last mystery. But
exactly, but as long as they explain it, I can take the swerve. But I just the fact that we thought Metal was going to be the standalone event that Snyder and Capullo were doing, but now we're getting Plastic Man and Hawkman, like classic Egypt Hawkman,
Hawkman,
and Mr. Terrific.
Yeah, Terrific, Hawkman with classic, Dawn of Time, Nth Metal leads to all this Dark Universe stuff. The Immortal Men, which is obviously teasing their own book, and The Outsiders is already a thing. It cutting to Hal Jordan and like Ganthet's telling him, by the way, something's coming, and it's cutting to other things, and we'll get to the end.
Of course,
obviously,
it's Ganthet, right? It's not any of the other Guardians. It's the one that can't keep his fingers out of Earth.
Yeah. Well, what I'm getting at though is it legitimately feels like the start. It reminds me almost of a Countdown to Infinite Crisis. That one shot.
It does.
Yeah.
It does, and what, Connor?
I was going to say that in that sense, it excites me as to what the next issue is going to be, because obviously that's another Prelude issue.
Yeah.
That's the casting, right? This was the Forge.
Yeah, but like
so
say,
this is where things are built.
DC events often have like a Prelude issue. Like say we had Countdown to the Crisis. It's strange to have two though.
If I'm going with the Forge and the casting as names, I would expect this one sets up how we're going to get to Dark Universe, which is the tuning fork.
Yeah.
Right? That's maybe going to be how we get into accessing all this, and it's probably going to be, oh shit, that was a mistake. I would imagine maybe, I mean, it would be kind of weird to read Metal on its own if this is the case, but I imagine the trades will include these two issues, because why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
I would imagine the cliffhanger at the end of the next issue, and I could be completely wrong, but I would imagine it would be the Thing turning on, or maybe the cliffhanger would be seeing the first evil Batman or something coming through.
Yeah,
whatever.
well, we got shades of that already with Hawkman's Dream. We got that big, gigantic Batman Colossus.
I've seen some people speculating that the whole time Lincoln March from back in Snyder's run was actually one of these dark Batmen.
Yeah,
and
that would be cool.
That big one there is him.
Well, he was Thomas Wayne Jr., right?
Yeah,
that's also the name of Owlman, and then Snyder made him an owl. Like, it all went hand in hand, and then Johns brings in the Crime Syndicate.
Just to back up this whole theory here, Court of Owls are brought up in this issue. We're reminded of their existence. It's in the Batman Secret Research Cave.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it past Snyder to have been playing the long game like that.
Yeah, and don't forget, too, that his whole entire arc is what makes Batman Batman. And you had Lincoln March kind of set up as this, he was Bruce Wayne-esque, but not quite. But if he was from this alternate Earth that had gotten here, then that means all his memories of being lost and whatnot aren't false. It's not like the court tricked him into believing that's really where he came from. So, it's
could be interesting.
It's quite something. Again, I can't get over that we all thought this was just a standalone. But upon reading this
is the crazy thing. This feels just as important as Doomsday Clock is going to be.
Just in a completely different way.
Yeah, this one's just more Batman focused. That one's more Superman focused. But they're both very much full DC events with because the fact that we're cutting to Hal Jordan and Ganthet, and then we're having Terrific, and we're cutting between all these different things.
That's what we also got with Terrific is he's a Justice Society member, right? Like he kind of has no context outside of the Justice Society.
Well, Batman.
It's very clear this is the New 52 version of him, though, where he went to Earth 2.
Yeah, because Batman even says you've not told anyone on either Earth, have you? Because they're clearly saying that he's traveling between Earths, that he has ties on both.
Right, but so then he does have ties to the Justice Society because that's what Earth 2 was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all we had of the Earth 2 in New 52 was the Earth,
exactly.
the Earth 2 book, which is the JSA. So.
Right, so. Again, it's just playing into all the stuff that we already know from different, from what it was before the New 52. I
really wonder if the reason why Doomsday Clock gets going is because something from Metal kickstarts it. Yeah,
it could do.
Well, it would be if Manhattan is pulling all the strings and it's kind of like a big experiment for him, and you have Batman running his own program, that would probably upset him, Because you really can't control Bruce.
Or even if it's just a simple case of turning on the tuning fork, just
ignites
something. Yeah.
Yeah. That's out of his control. He thinks it's all, and so then he goes to make his big move, and Superman's the only one that can stop him. Because Batman's occupied with, X, Y, and Z. Because it is strange that Superman is in this one, but doesn't seem to be that focused in Metal.
Well, I'd say he's on the cover for the first issue, but he hasn't got a one-shot.
Right.
No.
Strange.
To be fair, though, the one-shots are more, if it's exactly what we think they're going to be.
Yeah, but to me
It's like
that's
the
still
Dark
strange
Side War
not
thing.
to do a Superman one. Like, why wouldn't they?
Well, no, because it would make sense. Like you would. So if you're merging them together, and that's how you get. If you merge Superman and Batman together, you just get a better hero. But if you merge Superman, or if you merge Batman and Doomsday together, that's kind of the villainous Superman, right?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So that could be the Superman representation. And if Superman is dealing with Manhattan, right, like we assume he's going to in Doomsday Clock.
I mean, I don't necessarily think they're supposed to align at the same time. Maybe they will. Maybe that'll be the fun thing, is that metal does affect that, and then that separates Superman from the story. I still think Superman's going to be about in this story. Like, I think he's going to be there with the League. He's fighting whatever. He just won't be like a core story focus. Just kind of like how. So it seems like Hal's going to be relatively like a major character where we're following him in a plot line. And maybe some of these other characters were brought up. Whereas, Flash and Superman and Wonder Woman will be there when there's like, big team fighting scenes, but they won't necessarily have their own subplots going on.
It makes me wonder why Snyder picked Hal. Outside of just being a Green Lantern. I mean, he is the Lantern with no fear. Like, that is his gimmick. What we see
keep in
with
mind,
the encounters.
Hal and Bruce didn't typically always like each other. There was always a bit of heat there. And I wonder
Not even typically. They just get along because they're on the same team. Like, if there's a surprise party Alfred's putting together, he's not calling Hal. Like,
No. He definitely calls Hal just so that he can wind up Bruce.
Possibly.
I don't think so.
The point I'm making, though, is that I feel like maybe the decision there is that when all these evil version of Batman show up, it gets maybe actually a bit more interesting that Hal's there to go, yep, this is basically what I think of you every time I see you, or something like that.
Set him up to knock him down.
Kind of thing. I don't know. I'm just speculating. I mean, maybe there's another reason. Maybe Green Lantern mythos plays a core role in some of this, and that's why we have a Green Lantern at the core of it as one of the main characters. I don't know. Yeah. But very interesting. So obviously we have that. We have the fact that Hawkman, he's sort of looking at different artifacts, and he talks about how the world started with 3 tribes, and then he sees like a 4th symbol. It's the bat symbol. And he corrects himself and says, no, maybe 4. And I wonder.
I'm interested in what the other 3 represent.
Yeah.
One was a bird. One was
I think a bear, maybe.
Yep. It was like a bear and a wolf.
I'm close to it, hon.
Which that got me excited. Yeah, it's a bear, a wolf, a bird, and then the bat.
Well,
which that kind of ties into Morrison's whole thing with the Return of Bruce Wayne.
It could be that. Although, if I'm going to speculate about here, I'm wondering if maybe some of these artifacts come from other universes. They come from like dark multiverse worlds, perhaps.
You're telling me there's a bear man that's like Batman, but he's inspired by a bear? I'm in.
Well, what I was thinking, I don't know, or maybe these somehow represent all multiverses, and Batman's a force in all of them, but obviously they're all different kinds of Batman.
Yeah,
I don't know. But then again, maybe it's just tying into the whole, Return of Bruce Wayne, Grant Morrison, timey-wimey bollocks.
That's what I did, because him going back in time kind of inspired the native people of Gotham to take the bat as their symbol, which then in turn creates a time loop where the bats are under Wayne Manor because the tribe have kept them there and like took care of them because they're their symbol. And then that's what leads him to take the symbol of the bat. So,
Yeah.
Destiny, all that.
Yeah,
nonsense.
and all that jazz. But that's such a great thing, too, because you see all the different Hawkman helmets.
Yeah,
right? There's all the different
was
versions.
a Dr. Fate helmet in Batman's stash.
Yeah.
There was.
Don't think I didn't notice that. So these are the things. Yeah, so it's all these separate things kind of setting up the idea that Batman's aware something's going on with the nth metal, and they're looking at like readings from the planet, and like things are starting to go weird, and that's why he's going to Plastic Man and why he's talking to Terrific. But obviously, to go back to the Duke and Green Lantern stuff, where they eventually find out who's talking, and it's the Joker. Batman's got the Joker in a cell inside his secret cave. I was going to call it like secret man cave there. This is a weird thing to call it. It's inside the Bat cave.
And it seems to be the Joker from Snyder's run.
It is. He
one.
references the Dionysium as well.
Yeah.
And
That was the thing we missed, was that the metals, like the Electrum from the Owls, right?
Yeah.
And then the Dionysium, and they're all derivatives of nth metal,
Which is an interesting revelation, actually.
right?
It is.
Right. But
I'm
yeah, so and he's scrolling what looks like the values of pi
Yeah, that's what I
onto
was
the.
thinking it was, but because I don't know
Right.
what else it would be.
Hmm.
I never jumped to that just because it's just a lot of random number. I mean, it could be. I mean, I don't know pi to the however many digits that is.
I don't either, but Reddit did, and
Oh right,
someone
okay.
cranked the numbers, and they which would make a big thing. Like it just makes a big circle,
Oh yeah, the idea that
Yeah.
things are circular and all that kind of thing.
and
I did
everything
see.
comes back
I did
around.
see Snyder say on Twitter that this is not to do with the Three Jokers plot. That's something that Jeff Johns will be doing later.
Oh, for the
Of
sake
course.
of F. Not that I'm upset by that, but you think that's where it was going. So that's where Joker's been this whole time through Rebirth, is locked in the Batcave, like scrawling numbers.
Well, fair. To be fair, we're not really seen him all on Harley, which is kind of just on its own.
Yeah, it wasn't really him.
Yeah. Oh, was it not?
No.
All right. Okay. Update. There was a plot twist in Harley Quinn. That
But then
wasn't
that
the Joker.
mean, do they have? Because it seems like he could get out at any time because there wasn't really a cell. He was just like put
Well,
in the back.
the actual entrance to this whole area they went into needed to be like trick opened. So I guess that's the
Yeah,
ultimate
but he
sell.
does kind of have free
Yeah.
reign in there.
Yeah.
For
So it
some
almost
reason.
makes you wonder if they have, because of the Dionysium, they have this uneasy alliance. Because that's the last time we've seen. It's really the last time we've seen Joker, right?
It is, yeah.
Unless you count that person who may have been Joker without the white and green, from the end of the super heavy stuff. Remember he had that meeting. Bruce Wayne didn't
Yeah.
before he had his memory back. He sat down
Well,
on the bench.
I think this is saying that it wasn't him.
Yeah, I mean to be fair, that's what this
I
could be saying.
think at that point it was a fair enough assumption. It could have gone either way, but I think this saying no, this is where the Joker's been
Yeah.
is saying that wasn't the Joker. It was just a representation of what could have
Honestly, to be fair, I'm surprised Batman's not had this idea earlier. Like he keeps breaking at Arkham. You know what? Just make a cell yourself and just put him in the cave, locked away. Why
What's going
not?
on, Joker? Nothing much, Bruce. All right, see you next week. Like, it's very Hannibal Lecter-esque, right? Like he can go just down there and bounce ideas off of Joker. There's no reason to fight.
Kinda.
Like,
Joe, it does kind of make me wish that maybe once or twice in Batman over the last year, maybe there was just a moment in the cave where, after a poignant moment, maybe Bruce would just look over at the wall where this entrance was, and just sort of
Yeah.
have a moment of and we could maybe speculate, oh, what's behind the wall? It would just make this feel a bit more of a seeded
been. It'd be really interesting
revelation.
if we go back and see that there has been glances over there. And we just didn't
maybe.
really catch them.
Maybe.
but then this goes to my main criticism with Snyder versus King. And I know they're different writers, and I know they approach Batman differently. This feels like it's going in a different universe than the stuff that we just got with King. With the whole I Am trilogy of stories.
Yeah, it
and
feels like
rooftops.
at a different point. I agree.
I think it's a bit later when Bruce is a bit more sure of himself again.
I could see it being that.
But I don't know, because that then goes back to a loop of Snyder's Batman. Like, it's just... And I know logically it's just their different takes on the character, but continuity-wise, I feel like he's like rubber banding back and forth between these mindsets. you know?
Yeah, that happens a lot when you have these shared universes.
No, I know. But again, it's not a big thing, and it's only my only problem, because, I mean, come on. I got the Crisis Tower in here.
Well,
You know,
that's
like-
sort of, I said at the start I liked this a lot because it did feel like a big DC event. I'm
Yeah.
excited. I wasn't super feeling this metal stuff before because I've not been a big fan of what Snyder's been doing recently, and it could still go down a path that I don't like. But after this, I'm a lot more optimistic and I'm a lot more excited about it. Matt, did you enjoy The Forge? Are you? Because
No, I did.
good. Cause this is because we were talking about the one shots. You were feeling a little bit more negative.
Well, that's... Again, I didn't want to say anything in the one-shots that would...
yeah, that's fair.
spoil stuff in the Forge. I still am not a big fan of the whole metal thing being around a multiverse of dark, like the whole thing that was called Dark Knights, right? That's a little bit more literal now,
I do like the metal title more now. I realize just how nth metal is key to this.
I do like that it's actually about nth metal. That's the core of this
we
whole
were
thing.
when we got to that, we were like, okay, I guess nth metal's involved because we'd had some hints at that, but it's so much more than just involved. It is the whole thing.
And
none of this works without the nth metal.
Yeah, and tying it into like other things that have actually came from the nth metal as well makes you feel like, oh, this is a big deal. And it's cool. Because nth metal's been around DC for such a long time. Using it as like the core of this thing is actually quite a fun idea.
Well, it's DC's adamantium. You know, you need to upgrade a villain, you give him adamantium. You need to upgrade story stuff in DC, you add nth metal. Nth
metal is better than adamantium. I'm saying it right now.